Hey everyone, it's me, Katie. Look at that, immediately I got a notification. Let me just mute that. Sorry. Me, Katie. Ready for more crocheting with you again today. It's been a week, guys. Welcome to summer, if you don't know that already. Here where I am in Virginia, it's summertime now. Schools are getting out, and even though technically it's not summer, according to the calendar, it's summer for us because school's over. My older two ended school yesterday, was their last day, so that's fun. So now we're just in free mode. So yeah, now I got kids all the time, which is great because I love my kids. No doubt they're going to drive me crazy shortly, though. They like to argue, but it's all good. So I'm here today with you to continue our friend Hobbes here. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I know I said that I was going to do the extra bits today. I'm going to kind of show you how to make those if you wanted to do those. But I thought I'd switch it up, and we're going to do the assembly today, because if you're not wanting to add all those extra bits, then that's one less video that you have to watch if you don't want to do that. Kind of, so the next video will kind of become one of those optional add-ons if you want to add the face piece and the stripes and the eyes and stuff like that. Because, and I say all of that because the original pattern, those things are made out of felt. You don't need me for that. Because I wouldn't be putting felt on anyway, because I like all of my projects in yarn. So if you're wanting to use felt for the nose and the eyes and the stripes on the top of the head, then this is the only video you need to see. If you have issues figuring out where to put stuff. If you know how to assemble stuff on your own based off of pictures, great, you don't even need me. But I'm here for those who might. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to put our pieces together to form our body, and then next week I'll go through how to make the eyes and the stripes and the optional face panel with those who are wanting to do the cartoony version, I guess, of Hobbes. Because like I said, if you've ever read Calvin and Hobbes, and seen the comics, you'll know that what the original pattern here calls for is the actual stuffed tiger that he has. Yes, I know the whole thing is cartoon. I understand that. But it's based off the actual stuffed tiger, and he doesn't have that white panel on his stuffed tiger, but whenever he comes to life in his imagination, he does have that white panel. So that's where all that comes from. So anyway, we're going to get started. We're going to start with our muzzle, okay? So we're going to sew that on first before we join the head and the body together. But first and foremost, we want to embroider the nose onto it. So this will be kind of the only tutorial part, walkthrough, whatever you want to call it, before we just assemble. Because, in my personal opinion, I feel it's going to be easier to embroider the nose on with just the small muzzle piece, rather than having to go through the muzzle and the body, and the head all at the same time. So we're just going to do that super quick. Oh, lost my yarn. Oh, still in the bag. Silly me. I thought I pulled it out. There it is. So you're going to need black yarn. Also, the other option is, to my knowledge, they make them pretty big at this point. You also have like the safety noses. You could just get one of those big guys and do it that way as well. I don't have one of those big ones. The biggest one I have is like that big. We need one like that big. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. So go ahead and get your black yarn if you're doing this part along with me, and we're just gonna embroider a fun little nose on there. So if you finished off your muzzle from before, you know that we flattened it. Okay, so you just kind of squish it all together. This doesn't get stuffed. So we flattened it so it kind of has this like concave look to it now. Okay. So we're going to be working on the outside part of it. So not the part that goes down into it, but the part that pokes out. That's the side we're working on. It does not matter which is the top or the bottom. Whichever one you work into is fine. But we're going to want the top of our nose to come out. So I'll say like that top ridge right there. It's where I'm starting to count my count from. I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3 rows to start. So if you want it a little higher or a little lower, go for it. That's where I'm going. And you're going to want to center it. So we're going to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 5 stitches across. So you'll want to, with however size of a muzzle you have, you want to try to get those 5 in the center of your muzzle. I'm like holding it off to here. You want to make sure that the 5 that you're working with are as centered as possible. This is going to be an eyeball kind of a one. So we're just going to start off, pull the big string through because that's what we're going with. Okay. Then you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 across. Oh, and look, that was my bad. I counted the first one as going across. So you're only going 4 across. So the hole you come out of, that's where I counted 1. And then it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 across. That was my bad. Sorry. Alright, and then we're just going to pull that. And there's the top of your nose. Oh, look, mine's a little crooked. So I'm going to fix mine. Boop. Come back out. Yeah, we'll snip that a little bit there. Boop. There we go. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I am going to go 5 because for me, putting it at 4 makes it crooked and I don't like it. So depending on how yours falls, I'd say 4 or 5. Mine is going to make me fall at 5. Okay? And then basically, you're going to form a triangle with that. So I'm going to come down. So on the back, you'll see this. Ready? Watch this. If you can see this, I'm hoping you can. Let me hold it straight. So if I go into the center of mine here and come straight down, it's hard to do this on a camera here because I feel like I'm going all wonky. I'm going to come to a natural point that's right in the center. That's where I'm going to come out as my nose. As my nose. That made sense. As the end of my nose. Okay? So I'm poking mine through there. Okay? And then I'm going to take it back up to my corners. To those corners that we made. And this will start forming your V-shaped nose. I'm going to come back out. And it should look very similar on the back. Go back up. And now you have, bing! There he is. There's your nose. And then all you gotta do is you're gonna fill in the space. That's really all there is to it. I'm just gonna make sure that mine is nice and tight here. I'm pulling every which way to get this one tight, and it just doesn't want to work with me here. There it goes. All right. All right, I'm having a tightness issue. 1 second. There we go. All right, now I got it done. All right, so now that's nice and tight, you're just gonna fill in, and just in order to do that, all you're gonna do is basically, I'm gonna come back out the back of mine here. Okay, you're just gonna go across and across and across and across and across. Just kind of working around. You're gonna go into those same holes. So see, I'm just going right back across, forming another layer. I'm gonna come back through the back, out of that same top hole again. So you'll kind of have a nose on both sides, essentially. Coming back through with the same hole. And essentially, once you have a buildup of yarn coming through there, you're going to then start working out of the next space down. Okay, so now I'm one down. Can you see that? So instead of going through that very top one, I'm now at the one below it, and I'll work through that space for a few. Again, just filling in your space. If you make sure that your threads are just side by side, they'll fill in. Just going to keep doing that until it is as full as you want it to be. The goal is to not see the white, so you're going to want to fill it as much as you can. I'm probably going to do one more in that one before I move down. Alright, so see how it's coming along? And then you'll move down once more. Maybe. If I can get it to go through. There we go. And occasionally, depending on where your holes are falling, you might have to kind of crisscross back up. So like, let's say this one to this one, right? Because I'm in my next line. So I'm going to fill in. Oh, I went one too far down. Come back up. Oh, I messed up. Hold on. Go back under this loop, please. Thank you. Okay. Come back over to this one. There we go. That's the one I wanted to be in. Alright, so you'll see, like I have this kind of gap here. So once I fill in this space, I'm probably going to shoot one from here to here, just to fill in that space. So it's just whatever you need to do to fill in your white spaces. There's really no set way. So if one way works better for you than it does for me, yay! But for the most part, it's really all that's going to happen. It's just filling in the space. So I'm just going to finish mine up. Feel free to skip through this next bit until we get to the sewing. Unfortunately, I can't do that on live stream, so if you're watching on live stream, then I would say if you finish before I do, go get a drink or something, stretch out. So if you're watching on YouTube, I've had a lot of comments that a lot of my dear folks that watch me here are Spanish speakers. Clearly I don't speak Spanish, and have been asking for Spanish translations. Because I don't speak Spanish, and I don't know your lovely language, I don't know how to translate that. But I left a message on the community board that I have recently found out how you can get an automatic translation. So if you didn't see that post and you are trying to get a Spanish translation, for those of you who can understand English, at least, to what I'm saying, I'm going to tell you how to do that while I finish up my work here. But basically, if you turn on closed captioning, again, this is on YouTube, if you turn on closed captioning and then go to settings, which is like the little gear looking thing beside the closed captioning marker, you can then once again click subtitles, closed captioning, and hit auto translate, and then you can change the language that YouTube automatically translates into. So then you can choose Spanish. If you speak another language, obviously you can speak your language. You can speak your language. Change it to your language, and then it will automatically switch that over for you. I can't say I've ever really played around with the closed captioning settings before, so I didn't really know it could do all of that. So that's pretty cool. It has a wide variety of languages available on it. So hopefully that is helpful to y'all who need it. I attempted to start going through and like taking the English transcript and just going through Google Translate, which that was taking a lot of time. And, you know, I'm relying on Google Translate to be correct, and I don't know if it is. So I feel like, I mean, I guess in theory it would be the same thing, right, as the auto translate, in theory. That I don't know if that's correct either, but I mean, at least it's giving you something, I guess. So, I hope that's helpful. What just happened to my string? It completely fell out. Alright, I just have a few white spots left that I am trying to cover up. And mine's probably not going to be perfect, but I'm okay with that. If you hear lots of noise in the background, that would be my children, because as I said, we are now out of school, so they're stuck here with me. Once you do finish your nose and getting all of your spots covered up, you will want to just tie it off in the back. So it is secure, and then we will get to putting it on our dear Hobbes here. You do also have the option, if you want to put like the little kind of little mouth smiley thing down there. Not everybody likes that, but if you like that, go ahead and add that. I think I am going to leave that off of mine personally. Alright, last one, and I am pretty much covered on mine here. I think that's pretty good. There's my nose. Bing! So I am going to just snip that off. And again, I'm just tying it in a double knot in the back. Simple as that. Just so nothing goes anywhere. In fact, I'll do a triple knot. Alright, so there you go. There's your nose. Cutting off my excess string, and then we're ready to put our guy together. So first and foremost, we're going to put our muzzle onto our head. Okay? So your muzzle is going to go, if you see your stripes here, it's going to go obviously in between the stripes, okay, from end to end. And essentially it's going to cover up every bit from the base to as high as it goes, right? You can, if you want to, curve it out a little bit more. So if you like squeeze it, you can curve it out a little bit more. It would then take up even less space. Okay, but you're going to start sewing it right at the base of the head. So whether you're completely covered with it flat, or if you bow it out so it's not as high, either way, you shouldn't really exceed going beyond that first stripe. At most, it matches with the bottom of that first stripe that you come to. Okay, so we're going to take our big long string that we left behind after we made our muzzle, and we are going to start sewing it on. As you sew, you'll want to get, I'd say probably, so sew from this end around the bottom to this end, and then we're going to add a little stuffing behind it, okay? So if you do the bottom part first, it'll be easier to stuff a little bit of stuffing down there just to give it that fullness. Okay, so we're going to line them up. If you are a pinner, this would be the time to pin. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I am not a pinner, I am a holder. So I just I just hold it on there. But this would be the time to go ahead and pin your muzzle down and use that as your placing. I am just going to go ahead and sew it on because that's how I am. So, speaking of YouTube comments, I got one recently over this past week that honestly was a little mean. Like, constructive criticism, guys. Jeez. I understand that, my style isn't for everybody. I get that completely. I would just ask that if you're gonna leave comments about things you don't like about my style or what have you, just don't be mean about it. And I would say that for everybody. Like, if you ever leave a comment for somebody on anything, be constructive of your criticism. Don't be mean-spirited about it. Yeah. People have feelings. And whether you know the person or not doesn't mean that you can carte blanche just be a jerk. So, just my little PSA there. But regarding that specific comment, if you don't want to hear about my life as I am sitting here doing what I'm doing, because personally I feel like silence is worse, maybe don't watch or put it on mute. I mean, that's fine. But that's basically what the comment was about, saying that they didn't want to hear about my life, which is fine. You don't want to hear about my life. I was like, that's fine. But just, again, don't be mean about it. So I'm not a big fan of dead air, so I want to fill it. I want to fill the space with something. And, they say go with what you know, and I know my life. So I'm certainly not going to talk about politics. That's just bad. That would be all kinds of trouble. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I gotta say. If you would rather me not talk about anything and just have dead space, dead air, just tell me. I'll shut up. I don't have a problem. I just personally feel like that's even worse. But if that's what y'all want, I'll give you what you want. I will go all Spice Girls. Just tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Alright, I'm getting across the bottom of mine here. I just kind of keep repositioning him just to make sure he's not moving anywhere. This part I would say probably is the most difficult, in the fact that, you're not following stitches. So, like when we sew the head onto the body, we're going to follow stitches. When we sew our arms on, we're going to follow stitches. I think the tail is going to be another one of these. But that's super small, so you'll probably barely even notice. Because that's really easy to do. and it's the largest piece, so it takes the longest amount of time. I have like a hair floating around here or something. I can feel it. Okay. I am almost to my point of adding some stuffing. Hopefully you're there too. Or, better yet, you're ahead of me. I understand that I'm not the fastest. That's okay. Not everybody can be the best. I can deal with that. Alright, so you'll see I'm attached, but I got an opening, so I'm going to add just a little bit of stuffing behind the muzzle before I close them off. So I'm just shoving it down in there. You're not going to need a ton because it's not that stretchy. But just enough to kind of give it that little poof. See, kind of holds it there, so like whenever you go to squeeze it with love, of course, it's not gonna cave in. It's really all we're going for. Okay, so that right there is actually pretty perfect for my guy. Ready? So we're gonna just keep sewing away. Sew across the top now. Like, he's starting to look really cute. Like, look, you can already really see him coming in. I won't lie, as of this moment right now, I kind of get Tony the Tiger vibes. You know, the Frosted Flakes tiger. For me, it's really the eyes that make Hobbes. But we're going to get to the eyes next time. If you want yarn eyes. If you don't want yarn eyes and you want felt eyes, you can get to that whenever you want to. It's just cutting out some little ovals. Out of some black felt. Not too difficult, you know. If you hear squeaking in the background, my kids are watching something that apparently involves a squeaky character. You're talking like this. that annoying for you too? I'm hoping that it doesn't come through. But you know, I just really don't ever know just how much this microphone's going to pick up. Sometimes it surprises me. Alright, coming down to finish him off now. Got just a few more for me, and then we can start putting the rest of them together. I think this is my last stitch, which of course is my tightest one. Alright, and there we have a muzzle with a nose. Whee! It's our floating head. Alright, so then you just want to tie that off and run your tail through. Cut off any excess that you might want to cut off. I got a nice tie there. So now I'm just gonna run this through. Do 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 do. Oop. I like to make sure that mine is as secure as humanly possible. And then I'm gonna cut off the excess right there. And there we go. Muzzle's done. Muzzle is on and ready for fun. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead, take our body, okay, and we're going to take our head and we're going to sew that onto the body. Now, if yours looks like mine, you're going to notice, like from where you did your, from doing your jogless stripes, that there's kind of, usually the crocheters can see it, but people who don't crochet don't usually notice it, this kind of angled line going right there. It's not overtly noticeable, but it's noticeable to us crocheters, right? So that is going to be where I am going to take, and I forgot, we're going to do this first. Our body panel, our belly band as it's called, and I am going to mostly cover that up, okay? Obviously you're not going to cover the whole thing because it goes at a diagonal and we're not doing that. But I'm going to do what I can to cover a large part of that with my belly band, okay? So I did forget about this piece, I'm not going to lie. This is going to be very similar to the muzzle. But you're going to just find the spot that you're going to sew that onto, and you're going to do the exact same thing that we just did with the muzzle. You're just going to go up and around and sew it on. That's all that's going to do. I'm not going to do that with you just because it is so straightforward. There's really nothing for me to do with you on that one. Um, Again, this is one of those where it's your placement. Let me show you this, though. I forgot to show you this. Hey, this isn't my pattern. It's from Suki Girl 74. So sukigirl74.blogspot.com. So it's not my pattern. That's where you can get the pattern. I didn't make it. She did. Not mine at all. I'm just showing you how to do it in case you struggle reading patterns. That's really all there is to it. So, like I said, Mr. Hobbes over here, ding ding, if you look at his belly pattern, I was like circling it with my cursor, like you can see that. But here, you'll notice his belly band covers basically from top to bottom. Mine isn't as big. You can make, when we did the belly band, I said you make yours as big as you want it to be. This is kind of where I stopped with mine. The pattern calls for 4. My tension was a little tighter, so it's not quite as big. You could also, if you really wanted to, make it out of felt. That's your call. But yeah, so anyway, you're just going to pick your spot because it's the same all around. So where you place it isn't that big of a deal. Like I said, I wanted to kind of cover up that. So it's not as noticeable, but that's me. If you want that to be completely on the back and you're going to slap that sucker onto the front of it, go for it. But like I said, you're just going to sew right around and attach it to the front. So that's where that's going to be. So for me, where'd my diagonal stripe go? So this is going to be my front for me. So that is going to be how I want to attach my guy. Okay? If yours, if you don't care, then you don't do whatever. But that's where I'm going to attach mine. I'm going to attach my belly band later because that's just taking up time. So now for this one, I have my strand that I left behind off of my head, so that's the one I'm going to be using. Okay, so I am just going to kind of align mine so that my stripe is at least semi on the front. So basically all you're going to do here is, if you've ever assembled any amigurumi before, you'll know that we have the same count of 24 stitches on both the head and on the body. So to go around, all we're going to do is we're going to go through the first stitch of the head and then pick whichever stitch you're starting with on the body. So I'm going to start with this guy right here and then pull it together, and you're just going to sew it through those matching stitches the whole way around. Okay, so then I'm going through number 2, number 2, and you can go up, you can go down, go at a diagonal, however, whatever your sewing style is. I work better working from bottom to top. So after my first 2 stitches, that's what I've switched to, is working upwards. But you're just going to go match those stitches up all the way around the head. See, now I'm all self-conscious about talking. Because I don't know what to talk about now. That's the downside to reading comments, I guess. Now, as you sew, once you get to a mostly closed state, I would recommend adding some stuffing into the neck, just to kind of fill that space, because you can only fill so much with individual pieces, but once you get to the joining stage, sometimes you gotta add some. Now I'm gonna have to start going switch my direction, because otherwise I'm just gonna be going into my muzzle, which that won't be fun. So that's gonna take me a little longer, because for me, that's awkward. Go in. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here just to show you what I'm talking about. So I only have like this much left, but you'll see he's really, floppy, because there's not much in there. So I'm going to shove some more of my fluff into this space to just kind of fill the gap that was created. And I'm actually almost out of stuffing, so that's not good. I need to go buy some more. Look, now he looks fuzzy. I think he's got a fluffy chest. So see, now he's not quite as floppy, He feels more secure when you wrap your fingers around him and everything. So I'm gonna shove that this direction just a little bit more. Add one final bit before I close him off. Nope, that wasn't enough. Just want to make sure he's nicely sturdy, There we go. That was not nearly as floppy. And then we're just going to finish closing him up. Maybe. I know, I look awkward. I'm not the best sewer. The sewing part is not my forte. That is for sure. Okay, I'm on the other side of the muzzle, so I can go back to the way I like to do it. A few more stitches and his body is attached to his head. Woo! And my youngest has started his destructive time. Like how cats get the zoomies? My son has a destructive time. Thankfully, he doesn't destroy things that shouldn't be destroyed, like plates or anything. Usually Legos, or in this case, magnet builds, but nonetheless. Okay. He is all sewn up, so I am just going to knot this off and finish him up. Oh, I went too far. There we go. Fasten that off and run my tail through. Make sure it is as secure as possible. And cut off the excess. And there we go. Whee! Right, and now he kind of looks like one of those animal-themed bowling pins, you know? Or one of those, you know, punch things that fall over and then come back. It's kind of what it looks like at the moment. Because of all his roundedness. Alright. So we got him. Next up, we're going to add a leg. So the arms and the legs, if you recall, look very similar. But your arm has that extra black piece at the top. So this is your leg. So that's what we're going to do first. Okay, I've already got mine stuffed. You're going to want to stuff it pretty full until you get to the top, because this, you're kind of going to, it's going to end up closing as you sew it. Okay? Essentially what's going to happen. So, we're going to do him. Now, for the legs, you're going to want to make it either, this is where it becomes your preference. I'm going to move this down a little bit here. Okay, to where, much like the picture, you're going to sew him on so that he sits like that, or if you're holding him, he's going to be, you know, up like this. So it's really going to come down to what you want. Or if you want to be really creative, you can, this is, I'm squishing him, that's what's happening here, okay? You squish him like this, and you sew it to the bottom of him. So like you're kind of sitting on it, okay? So you can do that too. Because then whenever you can sit him down, so then he'll sit. I mean, he's not now because his leg keeps poking out. But he'll sit whenever you do that. And then when you pick him up, he'll go. Does that make sense? Yeah, so if you sit him down like this, this is being sewn at the very bottom. Then when you pick him up, that flat piece will move so it looks like he's standing. That's what I'm going to do. Obviously, if you want him in a more stable position, do it. Alright, so now I won't lie. I am used to patterns who, whenever you're flattening out the piece to sew it on, that you sew this across and then sew it onto the body. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to quickly sew it across. So basically all that is that you're going to match it. You're going to match those stitches and just sew it across. It makes it easier to sew it onto the body this way than trying to keep it squeezed shut and sew it all the way through. So it might seem like you're kind of doing double work, kind of, sort of, maybe. But it's a lot easier to sew on. And if you can give me one moment, because obviously my children are going to bug me to death until I see what it is they need. One moment, please. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Alright, so really quickly, I am just going to sew this across. Again, just matching those up. If you do not find this to be easier for your sewing purposes, obviously, don't do it. Come over the top, please. Thank you very much. And again, I'm only going to show you how to do one of these because obviously you're smart. You can do the exact same thing twice, right? I believe in you. Okay, last stitch. There we go. It's all closed up. There's not too much stuffing at my joint. So now I'm just gonna sit him like that. Yep, that looks good to me. So line him up how you want to line him up. I showed you how I want mine to sit. So that's how I'm going to sew them on. And for me, since I'm not a pinner, I am going to sew this one here. Come with me. Oh. Like, I'm all discombobulated now. And I can't even get this back on my needle. Okay. I keep making it worse. What have I done? I don't even know what I did there. All right, let me try this again. Yep, that's where I want him. Okay. I don't even know what I did on that first one. That was weird. Okay. So then we're just gonna sew them across here. Excuse me, goodness. Like I said, mine is going to be very near the front of my body, but I am sewing him onto the bottom of the body. So that he can sit in either position. Well, he can be in either position. I guess that's a better way of phrasing it. So it's just kind of going at an angle here. Just kind of take a gander at your positioning every now and then. Make sure you haven't moved him around by accident, so that he's where you want him to be. Mine needed just a touch of repositioning there. Okay. So now just to show you what I was talking about, so now he can sit. Obviously he's not going to stay by himself, but because he doesn't have his tail to hold him up. But now he can sit, and his leg falls down whenever I pick him up. Weird raccoon look happening here. Man, it's like, if you've ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like we're experimenting on animals. If you are a Marvel fan, I would highly recommend watching that, by the way. If you never thought that a CGI raccoon could make you cry, get ready. Unless you're not an emotional person, then it probably still won't make you cry. But if you are, you will cry over a CGI cartoon or CGI'd animal. They really get you in the feels. All right. So that is our leg. He's on there. I am just going to knot him off. And then secure him. All right, and then you'll do that exact same thing with your other leg on the opposite side. Okay, so other leg, do the same thing, and there you go. You'll have your Hobbes with legs. All right, now for the arm. Again, that's the one with the black on the top. That's going to be your arm. Okay, let's see if I have enough stuffing to stuff him. This is all I have left. Yep, I do. I won't have enough for the tail though, that's for sure. I won't be able to fully sew on my tail. Okay, so once again, there is something in my eye, probably an eyelash of some sort. Okay, he's stuffed. I am going to take my needle and I'm going to sew across this just like we did previously. To close it up. Just stitch to stitch. It's got a nice even stitching. Again, if you don't want to do this, don't. I think I might need to add all of that stuffing into here. Now that I'm sewing it, it seems a little light even at the top there. So I'm just going to push this last bit in. Yeah, that's better. There we go. That's much better. I am officially out of stuffing, guys. Gotta go buy some more. Off to Hobby Lobby or Michael's I go. Because that's all I got. I guess we do have a Joann around here too. Joann Fabrics. Can't say I go there that much. Honestly, because I forget about it. Couple more stitches. And it came out of my hook again. My needle. Thread through some more. Final stitch. Okay, there we go. Now mine is closed off the way that I like it. Now for your arm, oh, I took this off. It's back. There it is. So you'll see in the picture that it just kind of comes right off of that black stripe at the top of his body there. So that's exactly where I'm going to sew mine into. And yes, his arm will stick out. He's a fluffy guy, right? He's fluffy. So that's exactly where I'm going to sew mine onto. And I'm going to work, which way do I want to work? I'm going to work this way. Okay, so just kind of make sure he is not too far back. You don't want him to be too far back. So I'm going to start right here. So my starting point looks like it's going to be basically right under the muzzle. It's going to be my starting point. If you want him his arm to be a little further back, go for it. And I'm just going to sew him right into that black stripe. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I caught his leg. Do not want to sew his leg to his arm. So I'm just going right down the center of the 2 rounds of the black stripe. Want to make sure he's good and secure. Definitely don't want Hobbes losing an appendage at any point during play. If you're going to play, if you intend for him to be a playable toy. Obviously, if he's going to be just kind of a nostalgic showpiece, then I guess you don't really need to be too crazy about how you're stitching him. Just enough that he stays on, I guess, right? Alright, final stitches here for me. Go through the back. Alright, and there we go. He's got an arm now. Whee! Yay, Hobbes! Okay. So I'm just going to fasten him off. Give him a good securing knot. That wasn't quite knotty enough. Need a knot. That just kind of wrapped around. There we go. There's a knot. And then I'm just going to feed under here. And then feed down through another black section. And probably one more. Just for safekeeping. And make sure he's got a good long lead on that. Okay, now I'm going to cut off. And last but not least for today, it's a little longer today, but that's okay. Muzzle took a little bit. We're going to do his tail. Now mine's not going to be fully attached because, you know, he's not stuffed. So he's a little sad. But if you want to, you can always add a wire in here. That way you can like make his tail bendable. It'll stay in one place. Like if you want it to be curved constantly, you can do that. I'm probably just gonna leave mine just as stuffed. But I have to get stuffing to stuff him, so I can't fully sew him on. But just like you did with the muzzle and with the belly band, and basically everything else for the most part, you're just going to attach his tail right at the base there and sew around. You just want to kind of make sure he's centered. So if I'm looking at him, you know, I'm looking at his nose, I put it right there. Ding. Obviously, I would recommend that you put him on after you put your arms and your legs on, so you've got the whole thing done. Then you can base it off of where his legs are positioned as well. So I'm not going to sew him on with you right now because I really can't, since I don't have any stuffing. But it's also pretty self-explanatory. You've sewn all of these other pieces on. I think you can feel like you can get through these, 12 to 18 stitches? I forget how many we ended with on here. Like I said, it's just going at the base, and you're going to sew it around just like everything else. And then that will allow you some stability for him to be able to sit up once you have all of your pieces on there. So that's it for today. Sorry I was a little late. We have some stuff going on in the family that my husband was calling me about. So I had to talk with him, and then I realized that I had, even though I gave you guys the correct directions for the body, I didn't actually do it. It was the last round there was supposed to have decreases in it, and I didn't, because I was like, this is not matching up with my head. So I had to correct that before I could get to you guys with this. So yeah. So next week I will have my other pieces on, so you can see it, and then I will give the optional instructions on how to make the stripes and the eyes, and that's it, right? Because we did the nose. Yeah. Oh, and then the eyebrow, if you're wanting to do that. So those are all going to be optional pieces. Obviously, if you don't need any of that, then you're done, and maybe I'll see you in another video, in another tutorial. Not even a tutorial, a walkthrough. It's a walkthrough. I feel like the pattern is the tutorial. That's what really tells you how to do it. I just help you follow it. It's really all it comes to. So yeah. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Again, this is going to be one that I don't feel I need to show you on screen with you. Are the ears. Forgot about the ears. Okay, so they're just going to go right near the top of the head and center. That's all. I'm just going to sew them on there. They're flat. So you can sew across if that's easier for you as well. If you'd rather open them up just a teeny tiny bit, feel free to do that, but they are intended to be flat. But yeah, those are just going to go at the top, above the top stripe, and in the center. So kind of make it even from the head point. So from the center, it's 1, 2, like 3 stitches over on each. And then 1, 2, 3 stitches over here. So yeah, that's really all there is to that guy. So yeah, that's it. That's our Hobbes. Like I said, I'll have all of my pieces sewn on for next week, and then we'll do the extra optional pieces. So if you want to join me for that, I will see you then. Otherwise, I guess I'll see you when we get around to the next project. Have a great week. I will hopefully see you back next Friday. June, what is that? June something. What's today? Today's the 16th? June 23rd. Hey, that's my anniversary. How about that? That'll be fun. Alright, but I hope you guys have a great week, great weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye!